Let's take a look at probability with crayons. And in this scenario, we're going to use a red, orange, green, yellow, purple, and blue crayon. What is the probability of selecting a blue crayon? Now we know what our options are, and if you count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there are 6 total outcomes, and only one of them is blue. So in this case, it would be 1 blue crayon out of the 6 total crayons that we just counted up. What is the probability of selecting a blue or a green crayon? So we know that our crayon sample is going to stay the same, 6 different crayons, 6 different colors. And we have 1 blue and 1 green, so that leaves us with a probability of 2 out of 6, simplified into 1/3. So we made the fraction the simplest form by making an equivalent fraction. What is the probability of selecting a blue, red, or green crayon? We know that we are still working with 6 crayons, and we have 1 blue, 1 red, 1 green, leaving us with 3 favorable outcomes out of the total 6. What is the probability of not selecting a green crayon? So I don't want, my favorable outcomes would be selecting any of the other shapes that are not green. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so just 5 out of 6. Notice that when I am counting, I actually count what my favorable outcomes are to determine what they will be. What is the probability of not selecting a red or blue crayon? So 1, 2, 3, 4 of the crayons are not blue or red, so that should be 4 out of 6. What is the probability of not selecting a red, yellow, or blue crayon? So all I'm doing is I know that I have 6 crayons. That will be my bottom number. And then I'm seeing not a red, not a yellow, or a blue. So I have 1, 2, 3. 3 out of 6, or 1/2. What is the probability of selecting a red crayon? So now our sample has increased by 2, has doubled. And so now our total outcome is 12. And there are 2 red crayons, so it is 2 out of 12, or 1 out of 6. I had to count up and make sure my total outcomes were added, and then I counted how many could be a favorable outcome, our favorable outcome being red. What is the probability of selecting a red or purple crayon? So my new sample has still remained at 12, so I know the bottom denominator will be 12. And I have 2 red and 2 purple, so that is 4. So I have a chance of 4 out of 12, or 1/3, of selecting the red or purple crayon. What is the probability of selecting a red, yellow, or green crayon? So I have 12 crayons in total. I have 2 red, 2 yellow, 2 green. So that was 2, 4, 6, 6 out of 12 crayons, or simplified to 1/2. What is the probability of not selecting an orange crayon? So I have 12 and 2 are orange, and I want to know how many I can select, so I'm just going to take away 2 from 12, leaving me with 10. So probability is 10 out of 12. What is the probability of not selecting a blue or a green crayon? There are 12 in total. There are 2 blue, 2 green. So I minus 2 for the blue, another 2 for the green. I'm now at 8. My probability of not selecting those 2 colors of crayons is 8 out of 12. What is the probability of not selecting a red, green, or purple crayon? So now I'm up to 3. Again, in total, I have 12 crayons. I have 2 red, 2 green, and 2 purple. So 2, 4, 6, I'm taking away 6, so I'm getting 6 out of 12, also known as 1/2. What is the probability of selecting a primary color? So in order to know this, you need to know what your primary colors are. They are 3 out of 6. Your primary colors are your red, blue, and yellow. What is the probability of selecting a secondary color? So these must be the ones that are not my prime colors, that can be made by the prime colors, and it's my orange, my green, and my purple. Hey, so I wanted to jump in here to talk about the next few notes that you'll be taking. I want to refer back to equivalent fractions. So it may ask you, you roll the dice and you know that there's one option to get the number 1 out of 6 options in total. If you rolled the dice 30 times, what is your chances of getting 1? And so we can use our equivalent fractions to figure this out. So for example, I'm trying to get the number 1. So I have a 1 out of 6 chance of getting 1 on a dice roll because there are 6 total outcomes and my favorable is the number 1. So that being said, if I did roll my dice 30 times, I want to multiply it by 30 to figure out what my chance is. But a nice way to do this is to create an equivalent fraction. And we've already done this year, so that will be, it should be memorable, hopefully. So, how can I roll the dice to get it to be 30? So how does 6 become 30? If I were to create an equivalent fraction with the denominator of 30, what would it be? So think back to multiplication. We know that 6 times 5 is 30, and what you do to the bottom, you also do on the top. So I'm going to multiply 1 times 5, which will give me 5. So in a dice roll trial that you're rolling the dice hoping to get number 1, and you roll the dice 30 times, your probability is going to be 5/30. If you had 30 trials to pick a crayon, how many times would you expect to pick a red? Our total number of outcomes possible is 6, and 1 out of 6 is our red. And we multiply that by 30. Now we know that 6 goes into 35 times, and so we can multiply 1 times 5 is 5. We have a chance of 5 out of 30 times to pick it. If I had 36 trials to pick a crayon, how many times would I expect to pick up a blue? Again, I have 2 blue out of 12. So I'm at 2 out of 12, and I know I have to do this 36 times. Hey, jumping in here again. So we just established that we have the chance of pulling a blue crayon 2 times out of the total 12 crayons that are available to be picked. However, we're doing this pull for crayons 36 times. Again, it may be something comfortable for you to create an equivalent fraction as we've been practicing earlier in the year. So I know that I want to do it 36 times. How many times does 12 go into 36? Look in a multiplication chart. If it's not up the top of your head, the answer is 3 times. 12 times 3 is 36. What I do to the bottom, I do to the top. 2 times 3 is 6. So, out of 36 trials, 36 times reaching my hand in the bag of the 12 crayons, my opportunity to pull a blue one is 6 out of 36. 12 goes into 36 3 times. So then I go 2 times 3, leaving me with 6. My chance of picking up a blue is 6 out of the 36 times I try it. If you had 48 trials to pick a crayon, how many times would you expect to pick a purple? My total number of crayons are 6 and there's one purple, but I need to do that 48 times. So I need to figure out how many times 6 goes into 48, which is 8, and then 1 times 8 gives me 8. You could also use repeated addition till you count up in 6 until you get up to 48, and then add the numerator. If you had 24 trials to pick a crayon, how many times would you expect to pick up a yellow? 12 total different options, 2 out of 12, and I'm doing it 24 times. I'm going to multiply it by 2 because 12 times 2 goes to 24. 2 times 2 is 4. If you had 12 trials to pick a crayon, how many times would you be expected to pick a green? So this is kind of a tricky one because you are only multiplying it by 1 because 12 to get it to go into 12 is only 1. So it's still 2 times.